The book of Joshua ends with a land conquered but not cleansed of its inhabitants. Joshua chapters 13 through 21 list the nations left behind, a ticking time bomb. That incomplete obedience is the seed of disaster planted deep in the promised land. Then Judges chapter 2 lays bare the blueprint of rebellion with chilling precision. Here is what most people miss. The pattern is a theological autopsy of a nation's heart. Verse 11. The people did evil in the sight of the Lord, serving the Baals. God delivers them into the hands of plunderers who ravage the land without mercy. They cry out in distress, and God raises a judge to break the yoke of oppression. The judge saves them, and there is peace for a generation, a fleeting respite. But when the judge dies, they turn back to corruption worse than before. The Hebrew word shofet means more than a ruler, it means deliverer, one who brings justice. Verse 17 says they did not listen to the judges, betraying the covenant. They turned aside quickly from the path their fathers walked, losing the way. Each cycle spins faster, each descent darker than the last, a tightening noose. The oppressors become more brutal with each loop, their cruelty escalating. The people's cry becomes more desperate each time, yet they never learn. Yet the pattern holds: sin, oppression, cry, deliverance, a relentless engine. Why can't they break free? The text gives no easy answer, only the painful rhythm. It's an engine of self-destruction built on rebellion and forgetfulness. The disease is not external enemies, it is internal faithlessness, a cancer of the soul. Every judge is a temporary fix, not a cure, a bandage on a festering wound. The cycle reveals a nation that loves the darkness more than the light. Joshua's generation died, and the next knew not the Lord nor his works. That schism of memory is the fatal wound, forgetfulness of divine deliverance. Without a king, each man did what was right in his own eyes, anarchy of the soul. The spiral tightens, and the nation spins toward chaos and judgment. But the pattern is not random, it is a divine judgment, a measured descent, and the spiral only ends when the people truly repent, but that hour is far off. The Hebrew word shofet means deliverer, but each deliverance only reset the clock on a deeper rebellion. They did not listen to the judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods, sinking lower each time. The real enemy was not the Canaanites, it was their own unfaithfulness, a cancer in the covenant. This rhythm, sin, oppression, cry, rescue, became the nation's fatal heartbeat, each cycle faster and darker. The book of Judges opens with a flicker of hope. Othniel rises, and the land rests for 40 years, but the pattern is already broken. Othniel dies, and instantly the people turn back to evil. The text says they did evil again in the sight of the Lord. The cycle resets before the dust settles. Then comes Ehud, a left-handed warrior from the tribe of Benjamin. His name means unity, but his mission is division. He brings tribute to Elon, king of Moab. Elon is described as very fat, a detail the writer lingers on. Ehud hides a double-edged dagger on his right thigh, where no one would check a left-handed man. He says, "I have a secret message for you, O king." The guards leave, and the door closes. Ehud thrusts the dagger into Eglon's belly. The fat closes over the blade, and the king dies silently. Ehud escapes through the porch, locks the doors behind him. The servants think the king is relieving himself. They wait until shame forces them to check. They find their king dead on the floor, the dagger still buried. Ehud rallies Israel. They strike down 10,000 Moabites, and the land has rest for 80 years. 80 years, longer than Othniel's 40. But the pattern holds. Ehud dies, and the evil returns. Then comes Shamgar, a brief interlude. He kills 600 Philistines with an Ox-Goad. The text gives him just one verse, no mention of rest years, no cycle. He is a fragment, a footnote. Here is what most people miss. Every judge is a military deliverer, not a spiritual reformer. They remove the oppressor, but not the heart of rebellion. The people's idols remain untouched. The Hebrew word for judge is shofet, meaning one who brings justice, but they are like a wave that recedes. The pattern is an illusion of deliverance. Each judge's death is a trigger for relapse, a door left open. The peace periods vary, 40 years, 80 years, then nothing for Shamgar. The length does not matter. The tragedy is that each time hope rises, you think maybe this judge will break the cycle, But the script of Judges is relentless. It shows you the same story again and again, just with different names. Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, they are the first three, and none of them last. Their influence dies with them. The people are not transformed, they are only rescued temporarily from their enemies. Every judge is a shadow of what is needed, a deliverer who cannot save forever. The pattern is broken from the start, but the story has only begun. The next judge will not be any better. Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, 3 chances, 3 failures. The cycle is not a solution, it is a sentence. Othniel delivers Israel from Cushan-Rishathaim, and the land rests 40 years. But rest in Hebrew, nuach, means a pause, not permanence. Ehud the left-handed assassin hides a cubit-long dagger on his right thigh. He kills the fat king Elon in his private chamber. After 80 years of peace, the cycle resets. The people again do evil in the sight of the Lord. Shamgar slays 600 Philistines with an Ox-Goad, yet his victory is a brief footnote. The pattern continues. Each judge's death triggers a relapse. The Hebrew word for evil, ra, returns. The cycle is a sentence. A woman sits beneath a palm tree on Mount Ephraim, and all Israel comes to her for judgment. She is Deborah, a prophetess, a mother in Israel. She speaks for God, but she does not lead the army. She summons Barak, son of Abinoam, and delivers a divine command: march to Mount Tabor. Barak hesitates, demanding she come with him. Deborah agrees but prophesies the honor of victory will go to a woman. Barak's fear reveals a deeper truth. Israel's faith is fragile. They need a visible sign of God's presence, even in a woman. The army gathers, 10,000 men from Naphtali and Zebulun, but the other tribes hesitate. Reuben stays by the sheepfolds. Sisera, the Canaanite commander, fields 900 iron chariots. They gleam like a moving forest of death on the plain of Kishon. Deborah gives the signal, "Up, for this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hand." Barak charges down Mount Tabor. The Lord routs Sisera. A sudden flood from the Kishon sweeps chariots away. The Canaanite army panics. The iron sinks into mud. Sisera flees on foot. He reaches the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite. She offers him milk and a place to rest. Sisera sleeps, exhausted. Jael takes a tent peg and a hammer. She drives the peg through his temple into the ground. The image is gruesome. A domestic tool becomes an instrument of deliverance. Jael is a heroine, but her method disturbs us. Barak arrives, chasing Sisera. Jael meets him outside the tent. "Come, I will show you the man you seek." Deborah and Barak sing a song on that day. It is an ancient poem, perhaps the oldest in the Bible, raw with triumph. The Song of Deborah celebrates God as the divine warrior who marches from Seir. The earth trembles, the mountains melt before him. It mocks the tribes who did not come. Why did you sit among the sheepfolds, to hear the piping for the flocks? The song praises Jael above women in the tent. She crushed Sisera's head, she pierced his temple. A mother's tent becomes a grave. Sisera's mother waits at the window, wondering why her son's chariot tarries. The princesses answer, they are dividing the spoil, but the spoil never comes. The irony cuts deep. The oppressor's mother imagines victory while her son lies dead in a woman's tent. The land rests for 40 years. Peace settles like dust after a storm. But the cycle does not break. It only holds its breath. Then the text says, "Again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord." There is no mention of Deborah's death or burial. The silence is deafening. Why does the narrator omit Deborah's death? Perhaps because her legacy is not her own. It is swallowed by the pattern. The cycle continues even when the judge is a prophetess. No human leadership can break the spiral of sin and oppression. Deborah's song ends with a curse on the enemies of the Lord and a blessing on his friends. But the enemies are soon Israel themselves. After 40 years, Israel sins again. The Lord hands them over to Midian. The oppression is crushing. The people cry out, but the pattern is unchanged. The cycle spins on. Sin, slavery, supplication, salvation, silence. Deborah's gap teaches that even the wisest judge cannot reform the human heart. And so the story of Deborah ends not with a funeral but with the relentless resumption of evil. The prophetess is silent. the spiral continues. Deborah sits beneath the palm tree of Ephraim, a prophetess and judge, speaking God's word to a trembling nation. She summons Barak from Kadesh and delivers a direct command: take 10,000 men to Mount Tabor. Barak hesitates, demanding she accompany him. She agrees, but prophesies a woman will receive the glory. The battle unfolds at the Kishon River. God sends a storm. The Canaanite chariots mire in mud, and Sisera flees on foot. Jael, the Kenite woman, drives a tent peg through Sisera's temple. Deborah's song erupts, celebrating the divine warrior. The Song of Deborah, one of the oldest Hebrew poems, names the tribes and curses those who did not fight. Then silence. 40 years of peace, but no funeral, no transition. The text jumps straight to again the Israelites did evil. A Hebrew farmer threshes wheat in a winepress, hiding from Midianite raiders who strip the land bare season after season. This man, the biblical judge, demands a sign from God: fleece wet with dew while ground remains dry. Then the reverse. God whittles his army from 32,000 to just 300 men with a test at the water spring. With trumpets, torches hidden in jars, and a shout, the 300 throw the Midianite camp into panic and rout. After the victory, the people of Israel offer to make him king, but he refuses. The Lord alone must rule. Yet the judge collects gold earrings from the spoils and fashions them into an ephod, a sacred priestly garment. That ephod becomes a snare to the judge and all Israel as the people begin to worship it like an idol. The land has rest for 40 years during the judge's lifetime, but the peace is fragile, not lasting. As soon as the judge dies, the people again prostitute themselves to Baals and make Baal Berith their god. The judge had 70 sons by many wives, but one son, Abimelech, is born of a concubine in Shechem. Abimelech goes to his mother's relatives in Shechem and persuades them to make him ruler over them. He hires worthless and reckless men, goes to his father's house, and murders all 70 brothers on one stone. Only the youngest son, Jotham, escapes and hides. He later stands on Mount Gerizim and cries out a parable. Jotham tells how the trees asked the olive, fig, and vine to reign. They refused, so the bramble became king. The bramble warns that fire will come from it to devour the cedars, a curse on Abimelech's reign. Abimelech rules Israel for 3 years, but God sends an evil spirit between him and the men of Shechem. The men of Shechem rebel. Abimelech crushes them, sows the city with salt, and burns the stronghold. He then attacks the tower of Thebez. As he approaches, a woman on the roof drops an upper millstone on his head. The millstone crushes his skull. To avoid shame, he begs his armor-bearer to run him through with a sword. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech and the men of Shechem. But the pattern is already set. The faith of the earlier judge gave way to idolatry, and his legacy bred a tyrant. Here is what most people miss. The desire for a king, rejected by the judge, becomes a dark reality in his son. The cycle accelerates. After Abimelech, 2 minor judges arise, Tola of Issachar and Jair the Gileadite. Their tenures are brief. Tola judged Israel 23 years, dwelt in Shamir, and after his death the people again did evil. Jair judged Israel 22 years, had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys and ruled 30 cities. But after Jair died, the Israelites again did evil in the sight of the Lord. The pattern holds without exception. Even the best judges cannot establish lasting righteousness. Each deliverer only delays the inevitable collapse. The people need a king, but not just any king, yet the one they get will come from their own rebellion. And so the cycle continues. After Jair, the people once again turn to Baal and Ashtoreth, and the Lord sells them into the hands of the Philistines and Ammonites. But even in their distress, they do not cry out for the Lord alone. They cling to their idols even as they beg for deliverance. Here is what most people miss. The judges are not the solution. They are a symptom of a deeper disease. Abimelech's tyranny was a dark mirror of what the people truly wanted, a king they could see, a leader who would fight for them, no matter the cost, and the cost was always blood. Jephthah was a Gileadite outcast, son of a prostitute, driven from his father's house by his half-brothers. When the Ammonites threatened Israel, the elders of Gilead begged Jephthah to return and lead their army. He accepted, but before battle he made a rash vow to the Lord. Whatever came out of his house first he would sacrifice as a burnt offering. The Hebrew word for whatever is ambiguous. It could mean a person or an animal. Jephthah likely expected an animal, but when he returned victorious, his only child, a daughter, ran out to greet him with tambourines and dancing. Jephthah tore his clothes in grief. He had opened his mouth to the Lord and could not take it back. She asked for 2 months to mourn her virginity with her friends on the mountains. He granted it. The text says he did to her according to his vow. Jewish tradition debates whether she was literally sacrificed or set apart as a virgin, but the language of burnt offering is explicit. The pattern of death now consumes the judge himself. Jephthah's victory over Ammon became ash in his mouth. He is the only judge whose triumph is poisoned by his own hand. He then fought the Ephraimites, who had insulted him for not calling them to battle. The Gileadites killed 42,000 Ephraimites, the Shibboleth test, a simple word that revealed which tribe you belonged to. The river ran red with brothers' blood. Jephthah judged Israel for 6 years. Then he died and was buried in the cities of Gilead. The cycle continues. After Jephthah, 3 minor judges appear in rapid, emotionless succession. Ibzan of Bethlehem. We are not told anything about his leadership, only that he had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He married his children outside the clan, perhaps for political alliances. Then he died and was buried. Next is Elon the Zebulunite. He judged Israel for 10 years. That is all the text records. No battles, no deliverance, no deeds, just a name and a span of years. Then death. Finally Abdon the son of Hillel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 donkeys. Wealth and lineage are noted, but not a single act of deliverance. Then he died and was buried. The text is cold, mechanical. It records these judges as if checking a list. The silence itself is the message. Here is what most people miss. The cycle does not end because the judges keep dying. Death is the only exit. Each judge's death merely resets the oppression. The people never truly repent. The spiral tightens. Jephthah's daughter is a type of Israel, sacrificed by the very one who was supposed to save her. The minor judges are mere footnotes in a story of failure. Their lives are reduced to numbers in a funeral. The hidden pattern is explicit. No judge breaks the cycle. They all die, and Israel returns to evil. The only way out of the loop was death, but death of the judge never brought life to the people. And so the silence of the minor judges echoes louder than any trumpet. Israel needed a deliverer who would not die, but Jephthah, the Gileadite outcast, made a vow that would seal his victory and his tragedy in one breath. He promised Yahweh a burnt offering of whatever came from his house, and his daughter was the first to greet him. The text records her sacrifice with chilling brevity. She knew no man. The pattern of death deepens. Then Ibzan, Elon, Abdon, mere names, each judge a flicker before the darkness returned. Their deaths are recorded without emotion, as if the historian knew the cycle only ever resets. Samson, a Nazirite from birth, was dedicated to God but consumed by passion for Philistine women. His strength was not rooted in faith but in raw, untamed power granted by God. He posed a riddle to the Philistines, sparking betrayal and a cycle of vengeance. Delilah, a Philistine woman, was bribed to uncover the secret of his strength. After 3 failed attempts, she nagged him until he revealed his Nazirite vow. While he slept, she cut his 7 locks, and the Lord departed from him. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and forced him to grind grain in prison. But his hair began to grow again, a sign of renewed dedication. During a festival to their god Dagon, the Philistines brought him out to entertain them. He prayed to God for one final surge of strength to avenge his eyes. He pushed with all his might, bringing the temple down upon the lords and the people. In his death, Samson killed more Philistines than he had in his entire life. Yet no judge arose after him. The cycle of deliverance ended in despair. The hidden pattern becomes clear. Each judge died, and the people remained unfaithful. Nobody survived the cycle of sin, oppression, crying out, and temporary deliverance. The book of Judges does not end with Samson's death. It ends with moral chaos. In the hill country of Ephraim, a man named Micah built a shrine with a carved idol. He hired a wandering Levite to be his personal priest, corrupting the priesthood. Then the tribe of Dan stole the idol and the priest, setting up their own worship. But the most horrifying story is that of the Levite's concubine in Gibeah. She was abused by the men of the city and left for dead on the doorstep. The Levite cut her body into 12 pieces and sent them throughout Israel. This atrocity sparked a civil war that nearly wiped out the tribe of Benjamin. The book's final verse captures the root of all this chaos. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. There was no king in Israel, and no one to guide the people back to God. The pattern of Judges was a mirror of the human condition, sinful, broken, and unable to save itself. Yet in the darkest moment, a distant light appears, a foreshadowing of a different kind of deliverer. Samson, the last judge, was a Nazirite from birth, yet his weakness for Philistine women unraveled him. His strength was raw power, not faith. He tore a lion apart with his bare hands, but could not tear himself from sin. In his death, he killed more Philistines than in his life, pulling down the temple of Dagon upon them all. And after him, there was no judge. The cycle could not continue because the pattern had run its course. The book ends with everyone doing what was right in their own eyes.